Friends, today I'm going to show you how to install Active Directory in Windows Server 2012 R2. So first of all, we need to know what is meant by Active Directory. So first of all, before installing the Active Directory, just know about what is meant by Active Directory and then start the installation of the Active Directory in the Windows Server. So I'm just going to pre-check whether I have all the requirements for installing the Active Directory in my system. So I'm just going to check the server. It is having 2 GB of RAM with the Intel Core and a 64-bit processor, and it is a Windows Server 2012 R2 data center and there's a evaluation version. So right now I'm going to check whether I have proper network configuration. So here I have this is a network configuration which I have. So since I'm going to install the Active Directory, I'm going to give the DNS server as a IP address, the same IP address with what I have given here. So on the alternate direction, so sorry. So why we should give the preferred DNS server as the same IP address of the server? So while installing the Active Directory, you need to know that you need to install the DNS, that is a name server, while installing the Active Directory. So what for the DNS is used for? The DNS is nothing but the domain name system which is used for resolving the host name into IP address or the IP address into the host name. So in my future videos you can see how to configure the DNS and all those things. So right now I'm going to configure the I'm going to install the Active Directory first of all, and in my next video you can see how to configure the domain controller. So here in preferred DNS server option, you need to give the IP address of this system. Under the alternate DNS server, you need to give the 127.0.0.1, which is a loopback address, or you can simply leave it empty. So no problem will come, but you need to give this preferred DNS server as the same as this IP address. So since this server is going to act as a DNS server, I am just giving this IP address as the preferred DNS server. So if you have another DNS server and you are just going to only install the Active Directory in the system by configuring a DNS server in another system, you can just simply give the IP address of the another DNS server what you have in your network. So this is the DNS server what I am going to have here. So I am just giving the DNS server of the system. So I just given the DNS server. I'm just going to give OK. I'm just going to give. Now I'm going to check whether the details are updated properly by using the command ipconfig. So you can't see here while running the command ipconfig, you can't see the DNS server address. So you need to give ipconfig/all all. So here you can see the DNS server. This is the DNS preferred DNS server you have given, and this is the alternate DNS server. And you also need to keep in mind that you need to have this NetBIOS over TCP/IP as enabled. So you can check the NetBIOS over TCP option here in the same using the same command. Go to here and go to the network properties and go to the IPv4 version and go to advanced, and here DNS you can see. Just a minute. Here you can see this is the default option which needs to be enabled. By default it will be enabled, so you don't need to do anything here. So right now what you need to do, I'm just going to install the Active Directory. So go to the server manager and click this option called add roles and features option, and sorry, yeah, here. So since I am just going to install the first role here, which is Active Directory, that is ADDNS, ADDS, it is Active Directory Domain Service. I'm just going to begin the first role installation wizard here. So I'll just give next. So since it was a role based configuration, I'm just going to select next. If you want a feature based configuration also, you need to go here. So I'm just, since ADDS is a role, I'm just going to select this option, that is a role based or feature based installation. I'm just selecting next. So here it was asking for a server, that is a virtual hard disk. I'm not going to use anything here. I'm just simply going to select this server and just select next. So here you go. So these are different roles which you have, which needs to be installed for a server, but right now I'm going to install only the ADDS, that is Active Directory Domain Service. So if you select this option, you can see here the Active Directory Domain Services stores about some objects on the network. You can see here and you can take a look at this option. So right now I'm just going to select this option. So by default it will add some features which needs to be installed in your server for installing the Active Directory. So by default it will ask for the features if you select the roles. So since these are the default features which needs to be installed before installing the Active Directory, I'm just going to select these features for the installation by clicking this add feature button. So it was added, so I'm just going to select next, and you need to take a look at this called as a DNS server. So I have not installed the DNS server here, but just take a look, it was not enabled here, and I will tell about this option why I have not enabled here, because it will ask for the installation of the DNS server in the future while the installation of or configuration of the domain controller. So I am just not enabling this option, I am just only enabling this option. I'm just going to select next. So by default some of the features are enabled here, so you can just leave it. If you want to add some features here, you can select the features. I don't want any of the features needs to be installed right now, so I am just going to select next. So here you can see this option where you can take a note of it. That is, the ADDS requires a DNS servers to be installed on the network. That means you cannot install the Active Directory without a DNS server, or you cannot configure or install a DNS server without the Active Directory. So both needs to be installed for a properly working domain. So I have not enabled the DNS server, you can keep in mind that. So I'll just select next for the confirmation and I'll just install. So if you want to export all of the configuration to XML file, you can just select this option. I'm just going to select next desktop. I'm just saving it as a deployment config template. So we'll add ADDS deployment config template. So I'm just going to save it, and here you can see if you want to change the source path of the files where you are going to install, you can specify here. Right now I am not going to do or configure anything, I am just simply going to install the Active Directory. So I'll just select install button to start the installation of the ADDS. So it was starting the installation of those roles and features. So the role was installed and the feature is getting installed. So here you can see one notification has been given. So let's see what happens. So the installation was started on this server and you can just close it and you can do whatever work you want to do, but we will see what it was going to happen while installing the ADDS. So let's wait and see what is happening. So the installation has been finished and it was asking for you to promote the server as a domain controller. So this is a simple installation of installing the ADDS in your server, and this part I will explain you in my next video. Thank you for watching the video.